Good morning, colleagues. Today, we're delving deep into the intricate world of urticaria and angioedema. These conditions, while common, present a fascinating interplay of immunological mechanisms and clinical challenges that demand our keen attention as dermatologists and residents. Let's begin with an introduction. Urticaria, commonly known as hives, is characterized by the sudden appearance of wheals, transient, erythematous, edematous, and pruritic plaques that blanch on pressure. These wheals result from plasma leakage due to increased capillary permeability in the superficial dermis. Angioedema, on the other hand, involves a similar process but affects the deeper dermis and subcutaneous tissues, leading to more pronounced and often painful swelling. It's crucial to recognize that while urticaria and angioedema can occur separately, they frequently coexist, sharing common pathophysiological pathways. Moving on to the etiology. The causes of urticaria and angioedema are multifactorial, involving both immunological and non-immunological mechanisms. Immunological mechanisms, type 1 hypersensitivity reactions. Ig-mediated, upon exposure to an allergen, sensitization occurs, leading to the production of specific IgA antibodies. Subsequent exposure results in cross-linking of these IgA antibodies on mast cells and basophils, triggering degranulation and release of histamine and other mediators. Common allergens include foods, nuts, shellfish, eggs, medications, penicillins, cephalosporins, insect stings, and latex. Type IIB autoimmune reactions. In chronic spontaneous urticaria, autoantibodies target the high-affinity IgA receptor, FCRE, or IgA itself. This leads to continuous activation of mast cells and basophils, independent of allergen exposure. Complement-mediated reactions, seen in conditions like hereditary angioedema, HAE, where there's a deficiency or dysfunction of C1 esterase inhibitor, C1-INH. This deficiency results in uncontrolled activation of the complement and contact systems, leading to excessive bradykinin production, a potent vasodilator. Non-immunological mechanisms. Direct mast cell degranulation, certain drugs, opiates, radiocontrast media, and physical stimuli can directly induce mast cell degranulation. Without involving IgA, physical urticarias, triggered by physical factors such as cold, heat, pressure, vibration, sunlight, or water. Examples include cold urticaria, cholinergic urticaria, and dermographism. Idiopathic, in many cases, especially chronic urticaria, no identifiable cause is found despite thorough investigation. Infections and systemic associations. Infections play a pivotal role in the development of urticaria and angioedema, often acting as triggers or exacerbating factors. Viral infections include hepatitis B and C, Epstein-Barr virus, and cytomegalovirus, which are frequently implicated in chronic cases. Bacterial infections, such as streptococcal infections or Helicobacter pylori, are notable culprits. Helicobacter pylori in particular can lead to chronic gastritis and urticaria through immune system activation. Parasitic infections, including Strongyloides stercoralis and Giardia lamblia, are global concerns, especially in endemic areas. Shifting gears, we find that autoimmune and systemic diseases contribute significantly. Thyroid disorders, notably autoimmune thyroiditis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, are strongly associated with chronic urticaria. Systemic lupus erythematosus may present with urticarial vasculitis, highlighting the systemic nature of some urticarial cases. Cryoglobulinemia, often tied to chronic infections or autoimmune conditions, is another associated condition to consider. Genetic factors also play an integral role. Familial cold autoinflammatory syndrome, a rare disorder, arises from mutations in the NLRP3 gene, which affects innate immunity. Muckle-Wells syndrome, another NLRP3-related condition, presents with recurrent fevers, urticaria, and systemic amyloidosis. Part 3. Clinical presentation. Let's now examine the clinical features of these conditions, starting with urticaria. Lesion characteristics. Wheals can be shape, round, oval, annular, or serpiginous. Size, ranging from tiny papules to large plaques. Color, typically erythematous with a pale central area. Duration, individual lesions last less than 24 hours, a key diagnostic clue. Symptoms, pruritus, or intense itching, is the hallmark symptom. Dermographism, or wheal formation upon stroking the skin, can be elicited in many patients. Distribution. Generalized lesions are often seen on the trunk and extremities. Localized wheals may appear in response to specific physical triggers. Now, onto angioedema. Lesion characteristics, swelling, depth, affects deeper dermis and subcutaneous tissues. Texture, typically non-pitting and firm. Common sites, facial areas, such as the lips, eyelids, and tongue. Extremities. Hands and feet are frequently involved. Genitalia. Symptoms, pain, unlike urticaria, angioedema may be painful but rarely itchy. Functional impairment, swelling in airway structures can cause difficulty breathing or swallowing. Duration, angioedema can persist for up to 72 hours. Associated symptoms, gastrointestinal, abdominal pain, nausea, and vomiting are prominent in hereditary angioedema. Respiratory, hoarseness, stridor, or dyspnea indicate airway involvement and require urgent attention. Physical urticarias form an important subgroup, cholinergic urticaria, triggered by heat, exercise, or emotional stress. Lesions, small, punctate wheals surrounded by erythema. Pressure urticaria, trigger, sustained pressure, such as from tight clothing. Symptoms, delayed, deep-seated pain, and swelling. Aquagenic urticaria, trigger, contact with water, regardless of temperature. Lesions, small, localized wheals. Part 4, Diagnostic Approach. A detailed history and targeted investigations guide our diagnostic strategy. Detailed patient history, onset and course, acute or chronic symptoms, intermittent or continuous, trigger identification, food intake, recent consumption of potential allergens. Medication use, include prescription, over-the-counter, and herbal supplements. Environmental exposures, new detergents, cosmetics, or occupational risks. Physical factors, assess for heat, cold, pressure, or vibration. Associated conditions, history of atopy or systemic symptoms like fever or weight loss. Family history, essential for detecting hereditary conditions, particularly hereditary angioedema. Physical examination, skin examination, observe lesions for morphology, distribution, and duration. Conduct a dermographism test to elicit physical urticaria. Systemic examination, vital signs for anaphylaxis. Airway assessment for obstruction signs. Abdominal tenderness in hereditary angioedema. Laboratory investigations, basic tests, CBC. Eosinophilia suggests parasitic infection. ESR/CRP, elevated in systemic or autoimmune involvement. Specific investigations, thyroid function. Tests, TSH, free T4, and thyroid antibodies. Complement levels, C4, often low in hereditary angioedema. C1-INH, both quantitative and functional assays. Autoimmune screening, ANA, rheumatoid factor. And anti-dsDNA. Infection screening, tests for hepatitis B and C, and Helicobacter pylori. Allergy testing, skin prick testing for allergens. Serum-specific IgA levels for RASD testing. Challenge tests, cold stimulation test, for cold urticaria. Pressure test, for delayed pressure urticaria. Biopsy and histopathology, indicated in atypical presentations. Findings in urticaria include dermal edema and perovascular infiltrates. Vasculitis reveals leukocytoclastic inflammation with fibrin and necrosis. Understanding these intricate details allows us to confidently diagnose and manage these challenging conditions. In this segment, we will explore the pharmacotherapy and management strategies for urticaria and angioedema, delving into the intricacies of treatment, step by step. Let's begin with first-line treatment. The foundation of treatment is the use of second-generation non-sedating H1 antihistamines. These medications are highly effective and preferred due to their minimal sedation and anticholinergic effects. Cetirizine, 10 mg once daily. Loratadine, 10 mg once daily. Fexofenadine, 180 mg once daily. Desoratadine, 5 mg once daily. These agents provide excellent symptom relief for most patients with a good safety profile. If symptoms persist after 2 weeks of first-line therapy, we move to second-line treatment. This involves updosing antihistamines, increasing the dose up to 4 times the standard amount. For instance, cetirizine can be increased to 20 to 40 mg daily, or fexofenadine to 360 mg daily. Some patients require these higher doses for adequate symptom control. When higher doses of H1 antihistamines are insufficient, we escalate to third-line treatment. Here, we add H2 antihistamines to the regimen to block histamine activity more comprehensively. Ranitidine, 150 mg twice daily. Famotidine, 20 mg twice daily. For additional control, particularly in cases of NSAID-induced urticaria, we include leukotriene receptor antagonists, montelukast, 10 mg once daily. These therapies work synergistically with H1 antihistamines to improve outcomes. In cases where symptoms remain resistant, we enter fourth-line treatment, involving advanced therapies. Omalizumab, dosage, 300 mg subcutaneously every 4 weeks. Mechanism: omalizumab binds free IgA, reducing mast cell activation. Indication: specifically for chronic spontaneous urticaria that does not respond to high-dose antihistamines. Cyclosporin A, dosage, starting at 3 mg per kilogram per day. Mechanism: cyclosporin suppresses T-cell activity and mast cell mediator release. Monitoring: regular. Blood pressure and renal function assessments are mandatory due to potential side effects. For acute exacerbations or severe cases, additional therapies come into play: systemic corticosteroids. Prednisone, in short courses of 20 to 40 mg daily for 3 to 7 days, is effective for severe acute urticaria or angioedema. However, long-term use is strongly discouraged due to significant side effects. Dapsone, dosage, 50 to 100 mg daily. Indications: particularly useful in urticarial vasculitis or neutrophilic urticaria. Monitoring: regular CBC and liver function tests are essential. Methotrexate dosage, 7.5 to 15 mg weekly. Indications: for refractory chronic urticaria, particularly with autoimmune features. Monitoring: requires periodic liver and renal function tests. Next, let's address the management of angioedema. Acute management begins with airway protection as the priority. Immediate assessment and intervention are critical if airway compromise is suspected. This may involve preparing for intubation or even tracheostomy in severe cases. For life-threatening angioedema, administer epinephrine, adrenaline, dosage, 0.3 to 0.5 mg, 0.3 to 0.5 ml of 1:1000 solution, intramuscularly into the mid-anterolateral thigh. Repeat every 5 to 15 minutes as needed. Systemic corticosteroids and antihistamines can be used as adjuncts to epinephrine to control the inflammatory response. For hereditary angioedema, specific therapies target the underlying deficiency. Acute attacks: C1-INH concentrate, dosage, 20 units/kg intravenously. Available brands include Berinert and Cinryze. Icatibant, dosage, 30 mg subcutaneously. Mechanism: a bradykinin B2 receptor antagonist, which directly counteracts the effects of excessive bradykinin. Ecallantide, dosage, 30 mg subcutaneously, administered as 3 10 mg injections. Mechanism: a plasma kallikrein inhibitor. For prophylaxis, we rely on attenuated androgens and antifibrinolytics. Danazol, dosage, 200 mg 2 to 3 times daily. Mechanism: enhances hepatic synthesis of C1-INH. Side effects include weight gain, hypertension, virilization, and hepatotoxicity. Tranexamic acid, dosage, 1 to 1.5 g 2 to 3 times daily. Mechanism: inhibits plasminogen activation, reducing bradykinin production. Side effects include gastrointestinal disturbances and a rare risk of thrombosis. Finally, let's discuss adjunct measures. Avoid triggering medications. NSAIDs and ACE inhibitors can exacerbate symptoms and should be avoided when possible. Dietary adjustments. A low histamine diet may benefit certain patients. Stress management. Psychological support and counseling can be invaluable for patients whose symptoms are exacerbated by stress. To summarize the treatment process, consider the following algorithm for chronic urticaria management. Step 1. Start with a second-generation non-sedating H1 antihistamine at the standard dose. Step 2. Increase the dose up to 4-fold if symptoms persist after 2 weeks. Step 3. Add an H2 antihistamine or leukotriene receptor antagonist. Step 4. Introduce omalizumab or cyclosporin A for refractory cases. Step 5. Refer to a specialist center for advanced evaluation and management. Let's not forget special populations. For pregnant patients, medications like chlorpheniramine, loratadine, and cetirizine are preferred. Avoid systemic corticosteroids unless absolutely necessary. For children, adjust dosages based on weight and closely monitor for side effects. Let's now discuss the prognosis and potential complications of urticaria and angioedema, shedding light on the long-term journey of these conditions. Prognosis: for most patients with acute urticaria, the outlook is positive. These episodes are often self-limiting, resolving completely without long-term consequences. However, the story changes with chronic urticaria. This condition can persist for months or even years, challenging both patients and clinicians. Yet there is hope. Spontaneous remission occurs in a significant proportion of cases, reminding us to stay optimistic and persistent in management. For those with hereditary angioedema, the journey is lifelong. It demands ongoing management, meticulous monitoring, and a proactive approach to prevent and address acute episodes. Despite its challenges, advancements in therapy offer a promising path forward. Complications: as with many medical conditions, complications arise if these diseases are not effectively managed. Anaphylaxis stands as the most severe complication, a life-threatening systemic reaction requiring immediate intervention. Airway obstruction is another critical risk, particularly in angioedema involving the larynx. Without swift action, it can endanger a patient's life. Finally, let's not overlook the psychosocial impact. The visible, unpredictable nature of these conditions can fuel anxiety, depression, and a decline in quality of life, emphasizing the need for holistic care. Part 7: Conclusion and Future Directions. As we conclude, let's reflect on what we've learned. Urticaria and angioedema are not just skin conditions, they're complex medical entities requiring a comprehensive approach. From the first patient interaction to the choice of therapy, success lies in detailed history-taking, thorough physical examination, and targeted investigations. Management must be individualized, focusing on trigger avoidance, patient education, and pharmacotherapy. What does the future hold for these conditions? The landscape is bright, with innovative therapies reshaping possibilities. Biologics like monoclonal antibodies are being developed to target specific pathways, including anti-IL-5 and anti-IL-17, offering hope for better control in refractory cases. Small molecule inhibitors that modulate mast cell function are another exciting frontier. For hereditary angioedema, the potential for genetic therapies may transform care, targeting the root cause at a molecular level. Recommendations for practitioners: as practitioners, let's remain vigilant and proactive, stay updated, continuously evolve with the latest guidelines and breakthroughs. Adopt a multidisciplinary approach. Collaboration with allergists, immunologists, and other specialists enriches patient outcomes. Prioritize patient-centered care. Beyond the medical aspects, address the psychosocial challenges patients face. Empathy, reassurance, and shared decision-making are powerful tools. Thank you for your dedication to learning and advancing care. By staying informed and compassionate, we can transform these conditions from daunting challenges to manageable realities for our patients. Together, we continue to make a difference.